Imagine you're a Japanese fighter pilot in late 1944. You've spent years defending the homeland, confident that no enemy bomber could ever reach your skies. You've trained in the best interceptors the Empire has to offer, like the nimble Ki-40, 3-Asker, or the powerful Ki-61 Tony. You believe the skies over Japan are impenetrable, a sacred airspace protected by your skill and steel. Then, one day, you get the scramble order. High-altitude intruders. You push your engine to its limit, climbing, clawing for every foot of altitude. Your plane is shaking. The controls are getting sluggish in the thin, cold air. You look up, and you see them. Not just one, but a formation of them. They look like silver cigars, impossibly high, leaving long, white contrails that stretch across the blue canvas of the sky. They are the B-29 Superfortress, and you can't touch them. This was the shocking reality for Japan's defenders when the B-29 arrived. The sight of these bombers cruising at altitudes above 30,000 feet, sometimes even higher, was utterly demoralizing. Japanese pilots, in planes that struggled to reach 28,000 feet, could only watch in frustration. It was like trying to fight a ghost. They were there. You could see them, but they were untouchable. How did this happen? How did American engineering create a weapon that so completely outclassed its opposition and changed the very nature of the air war over the Pacific? Today, we're diving into the story of the B-29 Superfortress, the technological marvel that left Japanese pilots staring up in disbelief. To truly grasp the B-29's impact, we need to understand the state of strategic bombing before its arrival. Early in the war, bombers like the B-17, Flying Fortress, and the B-2 for Liberator were the workhorses of the Allied bombing campaigns in Europe. They were tough, heavily armed, and could deliver a significant payload. However, they had a critical vulnerability: their operational ceiling. Flying at around 25,000 feet, they were well within the reach of German flak, fighters like the Befreundet Wurf 190. This meant every bombing run was a brutal, casualty-heavy affair. The crews were exposed to the elements in unpressurized cabins, battling frostbite and hypoxia in the freezing, thin air, all while dodging enemy fire. The losses were staggering. The Allies needed a new kind of bomber, one that could fly above the fray. The vision for the B-29 was born long before Pearl Harbor. In the late 1930s, the U.S. Army Air Corps was already thinking about the next generation of warfare. They issued a requirement for a super bomber, a plane with incredible range, a heavy payload, and most importantly, the ability to operate at very high altitudes. This wasn't just an upgrade, it was a complete paradigm shift. The contract, awarded to Boeing, was the most expensive weapons project of World War II, even more so than the Manhattan Project. It was a massive gamble on unproven technology. The single greatest innovation of the B-29 was its fully pressurized cabin system. This was a game changer. For the first time, a bomber crew could operate in a comfortable, climate-controlled environment, a shirt-sleeve environment as they called it, even while flying at over 30,000 feet. The cockpit and the gunner compartments were connected by a pressurized tunnel that ran over the unpressurized bomb bays. This meant the crew could stay sharp and effective on long, grueling missions without needing clumsy oxygen masks and heated suits for the entire flight. It was a leap in human factors engineering that directly translated into combat effectiveness. A comfortable crew is a focused crew. But pressurization was only half the equation. To get to those heights, the B-29 needed immense power. This came from four massive Wright R-3 350 duplex Cyclone radial engines, each a marvel of engineering in its own right. These 18-cylinder beasts could each produce over 2,200 horsepower. But they had a notorious problem: they ran incredibly hot. Early B-29s were plagued by engine fires, a terrifying prospect for any flight crew. It took countless hours of refinement and modification, often performed in the field by dedicated ground crews, to tame these powerful but temperamental engines. Eventually, they became reliable enough to carry the Superfortress on its long journeys across the Pacific. Another revolutionary feature was the B-29's remote-controlled defensive armament system. Instead of gunners physically manning their machine guns in freezing, windswept turrets, they sat in comfortable, pressurized compartments. Using sophisticated computerized gun sights, a single gunner could control multiple turrets, aiming the .50 caliber machine guns with deadly accuracy. The analog computer automatically calculated for factors like airspeed, gravity, and lead distance, giving the B-29 a defensive bite that was far more effective than the manual systems on older bombers. This made the Superfortress a much harder target for any fighter that did manage to reach its altitude. So, let's go back to our Japanese pilot. When the B-29s first appeared over mainland Japan in late 1944, flying from bases in China, the Japanese air defense system was caught completely flat-footed. Their primary interceptors, like the Ki-40 for Tojo and the Ki-61 Tony, were designed for combat at medium altitudes. Pushing them to 30,000 feet was stretching their performance to absolute breaking point. At a Tate, their engines were starved of air, their controls became mushy and unresponsive, and their speed advantage vanished. A Japanese ace pilot described the experience as trying to swim through molasses while your opponent is flying through the air. You'd see the B-29's silver specks high above. You'd push your plane to its limits, the engine screaming, the airframe vibrating, just to get close. More often than not, by the time you reach their altitude, you'd have burned through most of your fuel and your plane would be barely controllable. You might get a fleeting chance for a single, desperate head-on attack before you stalled or had to dive away. And all the while, the B-29s flew on, steady and seemingly invincible, protected by their altitude and their computerized guns. The psychological impact on the Japanese pilots and military command was profound. After the Doolittle raid in 1942, which was a small-scale, one-off attack, the leadership had assured the public that the homeland was inviolable. Now, here were fleets of American bombers flying over their cities with near impunity. The Japanese scrambled to develop new high-altitude fighters, like the Ki-84 Frank and the rocket-powered J-8M Shasui, but it was too little, too late. The technological gap was just too wide to close in time. The initial high-altitude precision bombing strategy of the B-29s had mixed results due to the unpredictable. Jet stream winds over Japan, which threw the bombs off target. This led to a dramatic and devastating shift in tactics under General Curtis LeMay. He ordered the B-29s to attack at night, from a much lower altitude of 5,000 to 7,000 feet. They were stripped of much of their defensive armament to carry more incendiary bombs. This new strategy was terrifyingly effective against Japan's cities, which were largely constructed of wood and paper. While these low-level attacks put the B-29s back within range of some anti-aircraft fire and night fighters, the sheer scale and devastation of the firebombing raids overwhelmed Japan's defenses. The B-29 had proven its versatility. It could be a high-altitude precision bomber or a low-altitude area bomber. Its initial role as an untouchable high-flying Phantom had shattered the myth of an impregnable Japanese homeland, paving the way for the final, brutal phase of the air war. The Boeing B-29 Superfortress was more than just an airplane. It was a symbol of American industrial might and technological supremacy. It represented a quantum leap in aeronautical design, combining pressurization, powerful engines, and advanced defensive systems into a single, war-winning platform. For the Japanese pilots who first saw it glinting in the stratosphere, it was an unbelievable, almost supernatural sight, a harbinger of a new and terrible form of warfare that they were powerless to stop. The Superfortress didn't just fly high. It flew above the very concept of air combat as they knew it, leaving an indelible mark on the history of aviation and the outcome of the Second World War. Thank you so much for watching. The story of the B-29 is a testament to the incredible ingenuity and sacrifice of that era. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into military history and technology. Let me know in the comments what you think. Could anything have stopped the B-29? We'll see you in the next video.